10:29 according to my watch. So, here we go.
There we go, yes. Good morning. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware. I'm Helen Foss, and I have the pleasure of welcoming you to our service as this morning's worship associate. Welcome to all of you who are here in person in the sanctuary this morning, and welcome to each of you at home who are joining us online. Welcome no matter the hue of your skin or the origin of your ethnicity. Welcome no matter whom you love or where you are on your spiritual journey, whether you are doubting, believing, or searching. Welcome if you have a disability, visible or invisible. Welcome if you want for nothing or you struggle each day to make it through. Welcome whatever your political bent and whether you are young of age or young at heart. You are welcome here. If you're new to our church, we invite you to check us out at http://firstuuwilm.org and sign up for our e-newsletter that will arrive every Friday in your inbox like clockwork. I have a brief announcement this morning for two memorial services of two beloved First Unitarian members for whom we have lit candles, each in a previous service. Marcy Bierlein's service, who died in June, will be on September 14th at 1 p.m. Marion Sargent's memorial will be this Friday, August 30th at 1 p.m. Now then, I am delighted to be Rebecca's worship associate this morning. When she gave me the title and brief description of what she would be focusing on, she sent me down memory lane. These days, it feels like turbulent times for sure, but the term overwhelmed took me back to my 1980s and 90s, balancing my job as Governor Mike Castle's education advisor with many conflicting political pulls in the office while taking advantage of amazing help from a national organization, the Education Commission of the States, that could richly help deserving Delaware teachers and students. That, with being true to myself and seeing a real advantage of the work we were trying to accomplish, oh my, overwhelmed to be sure. And my rocks during those days were my dear husband, Robert, and this church. Truly a sanctuary. This place reminded me and reinforced for me each week of the importance of the values I was working to live out. I wonder how many of you have experienced this sanctuary, this sacred space that puts us in touch with our most deeply held values and beliefs. Rebecca, I am ready to hear about your journey and to once again celebrate how much this church means to me. Now, with that anticipation, I invite you now to turn to your neighbor and offer your own welcome with warm hospitality. John just informed me Marion's service actually is the 30th, but it's a week from this Friday. I had moved it up. Sorry about that. Thanks, John. A week from Friday. My mic is... A week from Friday. Is it on now?
No. It was better.
No, you can't hear me, guys. Marion's service is a week from Friday on August 30th. Now am I on now? Yes. Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. Now, with all of that, let us prepare our hearts and minds for worship. Kathy?
Come, let us enter this space of hope
and community. Come, let us enter this space with our sorrows, our joys, our passion, and compassion. Come, let us enter this space with the stories of our ancestors, whose strength and wisdom beat in our hearts. Come into this space present to the beloved companions who move beside us. Come into this space mindful that together we are building a future for other generations. Come into this space and let us worship.
If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to light it while Rebecca lights our chalice here in the sanctuary. These words are by Reverend Tara Humphreys, who is a UU minister in Portland, Maine. She writes, "This chalice is lit for you. Whether you are from the south, the east, the north, or the west, whether you were born into this faith, found it, or it found you, whether you feel at home or are still trying to find your place, whether you believe in God, are open to mystery, or still have no idea, whether you are unemployed, underemployed, cobbling things together, overworking, or in school, whether you're holding anxiety, grief, confusion, anger, hope, restlessness, or deep peace. Unitarian Universalism has a place for you. It is right here, and this chalice is lit for you."
Please stand now in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 17, Every Night and Every Morn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Every night and every morn, some to misery are born. Every morn and every night, some are born to sweet delight. Joy and woe are woven fine, clothing made for joy and pine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silk entwined. It is right, it should be so. We were made for joy and woe, and when this we rightly know, safely through the world we go.
Please join me now with our unison affirmation. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action.
I invite you into a short guided meditation. So make sure that however you're sitting or maybe even laying down at home or standing in your kitchen, that you have a firm base under you. You can feel where your feet touch the floor. Your body is supported by the chair or whatever surface you're resting on that is resting on the surface of our beautiful planet Earth. And just maybe, be aware that your shoulders are relaxed and your body is as centered as your body gets, maybe not listing to one side or the other. And take a breath in through your nose and out through your nose. And this breath can be quiet, can be short, could be long. Just notice. Sometimes when people are being told how to breathe, they get a little tense and maybe your abdomen tightens up, but that's okay. Just notice that, I'm a little resistant to this lady telling me when to breathe. You can notice that. And next time as you breathe in, I invite you to just be aware of your body, where it feels really comfortable, where there's some pain, where there's some tension, what parts of your body are feeling at perfect ease. So breathe in and just be aware of your body. And as you breathe out, I invite you to just smile to your body, just as it is. Aware of your body. Smile to your body. Now, every day, your body is experiencing physical reactions to your feelings. So I invite you to pay attention now to what feelings you're feeling. They could be feelings you label as good. They could be feelings you label as bad, welcome, or unwelcome. Just notice what you're feeling. As you breathe in, stay aware of your feelings. And as you breathe out, smile to them, even if you're labeling them as unwelcome. Whether they're wholesome or unwholesome, just smile and hold them. So aware of your feelings as you breathe in. Breathing out, smile to your feelings. Next, let us try to, not even try, just do it. Just let go of your feelings. You don't need to feel them for the next minute. They'll be there, I'm sure. So just let them go. Just rest in your body. So as you breathe in, just let go of those feelings and thoughts. And as you breathe out, let the joy of letting go just fill you up. Letting go of feelings as you breathe in, leaving space for joy as you breathe out. Breathing in. I know that I am breathing in. Breathing out. I know that I am breathing out. At this point in our service, we acknowledge the joys and concerns that are occupying us and share them so that we feel the support of the community. So if you have a concern you would like to share with this community, we invite you to speak it aloud now or enter it into the chat online. I know the choir's all missing Marion Sargent today.
All Black Lives.
If you have a joy you would like to share with the community, please speak it out loud or write it into the chat. May all names spoken and those unspoken be held in our loving attention and find peace and healing this day. If you feel moved to sing along with the musical meditation, that's allowed.
To see the world in a grain of sand, and heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity.
Our reading this morning comes from The Miracle of Mindfulness, a very slim little volume, easy to read, written by Thich Nhat Hanh, I don't know, some 60 or 70 years ago. Yesterday, Alan came over to visit with his son, Joey. Joey has grown so quickly. He's already 7 years old and is fluent in French and English. He even uses a bit of slang he's picked up on the street. Raising children here is very different from the way we raise children at home. Here, parents believe that freedom is necessary for a child's development. Well, during the 2 hours that Alan and I were talking, Alan had to keep a constant eye on Joey. Joey played, chattered away, interrupted us, making it impossible to carry on a real conversation. I gave him several picture books for children, but he barely glanced at them before tossing them aside and interrupting our conversation again. He demands constant attention of grown-ups. Later, Joey put on his jacket and went outside to play with a neighbor's child. I asked Alan, "Do you find family life easy?" Alan didn't answer directly. He said that during the past few weeks, since the birth of Anna, he had been unable to sleep for any length of time. During the night, Sue wakes him up, and because she's too tired herself, asks him to check to make sure Anna is still breathing. I get up and look at the baby, and then come back and fall asleep again. Sometimes the ritual happens 2 or 3 times a night. Is family life easier than being a bachelor? I asked. Alan didn't answer directly, but I understood. I asked another question. A lot of people say that if you have a family, you're less lonely and have more security. Is that true? Alan nodded his head and mumbled something softly, but I understood. And then Alan said, "I've discovered a way to have a lot more time. In the past, I used to look at my time as if it were divided into several parts. One part I reserved for Joey, another part was for Sue, another part was to help with Anna, another part for the household work, and the time left over I considered my own. I could write, read, do research, take walks. But now I try not to divide time into parts anymore. I consider my time with Joey and Sue as my own time. When I help Joey with his homework, I try to find ways of seeing his time as my own time. I go through his lesson with him, sharing his presence and finding ways to be interested in what we do during that time. The time for him becomes my own time. And the same with Sue. The remarkable thing is that now I have unlimited time for myself." Alan smiled as he spoke. I was surprised. I knew that Alan hadn't learned this from reading any books. This was something he had discovered for himself in his own daily life. So I want to thank you all for showing up and for tuning in and listening for the 5th time, because it was just that good. It takes a certain amount of arrogance, I think, to stand up and imagine you have something to say that will have meaning to other people, something unique to communicate that can help others live a better life or open a new window on the world for them. Or failing that self-assurance, you can sit in a room with Reverend Larry and the other worship associates one spring and looking at the open slots on the summer schedule and say, "Okay, I'll take that one." So here goes. The other thing is when you deliver the sermon, you get to pick the hymns. So I hope you're going to enjoy singing some of my favorite hymns this morning. What I'm about to share comes from the heart, from my own experience, and from the insights that I have gained through those experiences. And of course, I'm always guided by my teacher, Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh. When I was in my 20s, set the Wayback Machine for 40 years ago, I lost my way one summer. I was living in a railroad flat in a gritty part of Jersey City. There were no trees on my block or in the surrounding blocks of the neighborhood. I had friends, but when I look at them now, I think they were not the kind of friends that were so nourishing for me to hang around with. I had lost my job. Not that I loved that job, but no job meant very little money. And I didn't know what was going to be my next step. So I spent my days numbing myself. I ate Entenmann's cakes and read mystery novels from the public library. But there were small things that brought me some joy. I remember feeling the kiss of a breeze on my cheek, or the peach and amethyst tones of a sunset. I was lonely. I was broke. I was sad. I was directionless. At the time, I had not read Thich Nhat Hanh's work, so I had not been exposed to the idea that the conditions for happiness are all around us in every moment, and that each moment is a wonderful moment. But some instinct led me to treasure the small joys. But is that enough? Well, it was enough to help me understand, to feel in some part of my body that I was not, in fact, alone. I had the breeze and I had the sunset. And it wasn't much to sustain my spirit, but it was enough to light a path out of my darkness. So fast forward 20-odd years or so, and I was married, working full-time, raising a family, taking care of an elderly parent. I was physically, emotionally, did I mention the full-time job was teaching? And mentally drained. I was cranky, and I felt like the kitten clinging to the end of the rope in the classic motivational poster. Hang in there. Most of us have times in our lives when we feel overwhelmed. So what gives you that feeling? Maybe some of those feelings arose for you during our brief meditation. It's different for everyone. You may be worn down by the relentlessness of your responsibilities. It could be as simple as that. Or you may have a child who's struggling with their mental health, and you don't know what to do. You may fear the outcome of the upcoming elections. You may start thinking about suffering and conflict around the world. I mean, there's a long list. Palestine, Ukraine, the Sudan, Yemen, Bangladesh. So many refugees, displaced persons, children at risk. Or as we swelter through the summer while trees crash down around us, around our homes, and the more intense storms we've been experiencing, who isn't worried about what summer will be like in just 10 years? Well, as I wrote these words, it took me like 30 seconds to come up with a list of catastrophes. Lots to keep you up at night. And I know we've lived through turbulent political and social times before, but the human world does seem to be heading to a crossroads, a reckoning. Now, Hokusai's famous image of the Great Wave off Kanagawa is popularly plastered on t-shirts and tote bags, and most people know it just as a really beautiful image. It's a perfect example of the golden ratio in art. And it's often edited just to show the wave. So you might not notice that in the water below the wave, there are fishing boats with men cowering down on them, about to be swamped. How can you keep yourself together in such times? Well, it's tempting to give yourself up to indulgence, numb yourself with a good streaming binge, go on a yoga retreat because you're stressed out, buy that ice cream because it's hot and you're tired, and it's been hot every day for the last 3 months. Many years ago, I had a coworker who had extensive credit card debt that was preying daily upon her mind. So how did she help herself feel better? She would buy a cute new outfit to cheer herself up. Now, it's easy for someone outside of her situation to see the problem here, but she was too overwhelmed to think of any other way to help herself cope with the stress. So she just kept piling on more debt. You may soothe yourself by scrolling through various social media apps on your phone, staying up late and depriving yourself of sleep because you can't put the phone down in any way. This is the only time you have for yourself. The self-soothing behaviors that pass for self-care in our society often compound our problems. Real self-care cannot be monetized, however. Henry David Thoreau famously wrote, "Beware of any undertaking that requires the purchase of new clothes." If it costs money, it's probably not the self-care you need. Now, in my 40s, when I was once again the little man in the boat about to be swamped, I had more tools to help myself have compassion and take better care of myself. I had learned mindfulness practices from the Plum Village tradition, and while I did not spend time every day sitting in meditation, I did pay attention to the present moment every day throughout the day. Now, real self-care requires a little effort, a little attention on your part, but it doesn't have to take a whole lot of time. Or it doesn't need to take time different than the time you're already spending living. You don't need to go away for a week-long retreat or even an evening. It's nice to do that if you have the resources. A mindfulness retreat helps you build the habit of arriving in the present moment and helps you connect with a community of practice. But you don't need to have the time or the money to have compassion for yourself. Like the father in the reading, you can find it throughout your day. So the first step is to stop. What exactly does that mean? Well, it means taking a pause in your day, in your train of thought, in your work. It could mean recognizing that you're experiencing anxiety, fear, or anger, and mentally pressing a pause button. It can be as simple as saying to yourself, I'm feeling angry. Right away, you have an awareness that there's an observing part of you that is aware of your anger, as well as a part of you that's feeling the anger. And the observing part is kind of taking care of the feeling part. It's like holding it inside of itself in its observation. You may even give yourself a little compassionate mental hug, like, oh, you poor thing, you're feeling angry. That doesn't feel good, does it? No. And that in itself releases the hold your feelings have on you and helps you realize you're more than your feelings, so much more. You're more complicated, for starters, and you can worry about things later, but maybe for 5 minutes, maybe even for 1 minute. You can put it on hold. Just let it be. Is there something else around that you could pay attention to? That breeze, that sunset, your breath, the shape of your hands, the beautiful person you're sitting next to? Another way to stop is to focus on one thing at a time and let that thing, whether it be washing dishes, or picking up Legos, or driving a car, or pulling weeds, just pick an activity and let it fill your entire attention. What sensations are you feeling, for example, while you're washing the dishes? It's very, very lovely. There's warm water and the sound of running water and the scent of the dish soap, the slipperiness of the dishes. And if you start thinking about your to-do list for the rest of the evening, or even about the cup of tea you'd like to have once that chore is done, you can just drop it and focus again on the warm water and the running water and the soap. And how wonderful it is to have warm running water. It's so easy to wash the dishes these days. For a while in my 50s, I begrudged anyone else washing the dishes because that was my meditation cushion. It's like, stopping can also mean physically stopping. Sit down for a minute and maybe follow your breath or get in touch with what your body is feeling, as we did in the meditation. Just stand still and feel your feet connecting with the earth. Drink a cup of tea without looking at your phone or a book. Just sip the tea. That cup lasts forever when you're just doing that, as opposed to sitting there with a book and then suddenly your cup is empty and you don't know where that tea went. Stopping by itself is a powerful self-care practice. When you stop paying attention to whatever is preoccupying you, you may find other things show up for your attention. But you're stopping, so you let those things pass on by. You might wave at them, but you don't need to invite them to take tea with you. They will be there for you if you need them in the future, and if you don't, that's fine. Stopping with your cup of tea, for instance, you might reflect on all the conditions that have made that cup of tea possible. To grow tea, right, you need sun and water and the earth. The tea plant wouldn't have been able to grow without us being on this planet in the universe positioned where we are. And then there were people who tended the tea, cultivated it, picked it, processed it, packaged it, shipped it, stocked the grocery shelves, and then rang up the register for you. Without all those people, you're connected to them through that cup of tea. You can see the entire universe in your cup if you let yourself. So sip by sip, drink your tea. And that's a metaphor too, in case you need to be aware of that. It's not just about drinking the tea. If you have a little more time after stopping, the next step for self-care is to rest. Thoughts are inevitable, but then again, you don't need to pursue them. They can be acknowledged and let be. At Plum Village monasteries around the world, practitioners observe noble silence from about 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. the next morning. Now, noble silence is very special. It's not just an outward observance of silence. It's meant to be experienced inside. So noble silence is not a time to read or write. So you have this whole evening, but you're not sitting there engaged in reading and writing and filling your head with words. It's a time to rest, to let words and emotions and physical sensations just be. Don't seek them out, but don't push them away either. That's too much effort. You're resting, right? They're in you and around you, but they are not you. For resting, you may wish to practice deep relaxation. It's easy to forget you have a body when you're consumed by other concerns. The mind is the time traveler. It frets over past events. It worries about future ones. But the body, by hook or by crook, is always in the present moment. It can't help itself. So when you sync your mind up with your body, you're immediately anchored in the present moment. It's that simple. And there's a lot of free resources online that can guide your body in deep relaxation. I use the Plum Village app. It's free. And some of the guided relaxation recordings are like 5 minutes long. Some of them are 2 hours. So however much time you have. Now, when you stop and rest and open yourself to what is in you and around you, just in that moment, that's when you begin to heal from your suffering. Now, the transformation doesn't need to be complete or permanent to be effective. It's not one and done. Healing happens every time you stop and rest, but new damage occurs every day as we live our lives. New sources of suffering arise. But insights also arise when you stop and rest, and those insights enable you to heal. Your insights may differ from my insights. They will be understandings that help you live your life with greater ease. And you may see that even when the outcome you desired does not come to fruition, that you are still okay. It's the ebb and flow of the tides. You've seen how the whole universe was in your cup of tea, and how you are part of that universe. By consuming the tea, you drank the whole universe. We acknowledge the interdependent web of life in our seventh principle. So that's not just the plants, the animals, other human beings. It's our planet and our whole universe. So don't forget that you're a part of that. By giving yourself a little space between you and the push and pull of the news, the daily vicissitudes of living and your feelings about it all, you remove a lot of drama from your life. We had a guest minister a few years ago. I don't know if you remember her, but I don't remember her name. But she had a poster of a duck on the ocean in her office. When faced with eternity, she said, the duck sits down in it. Was that Libby Smith who was just here? Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you, Libby. Holla. I should have mentioned that to you when you were here. The duck moves up and down with the waves without judging the movement or reacting to it. There's just no drama. So stopping and resting, looking inward, getting in touch with your body, thoughts, and feelings is one way to take care of yourself. And it is the most accessible way because you're always there with yourself. You can do it with whatever resources you have available or whatever resources you feel you lack. You can do this. But it does take practice and intention and just a little effort to actually do it. So one way to make sure that you're diligent and persistent in the practice is to connect with others who share a similar aspiration. That can be any group of people committed to the same goal. It could be this church. It could be your family. We have groups in this church, your friends, even your workmates. Marge Meyerman's Caregivers Support Group, hey Lucy, was a lifeline for me during a few of my most challenging years. And then I have another spiritual community called Willow Branch Sangha, which is affiliated with the Plum Village community. So connecting with like-minded individuals not only supports your practice, but it will help ease your isolation. So we've got stopping, resting, healing, connecting with a supportive community, and finally, the other method of self-care that I personally find indispensable is spending time in nature or connecting with the community of all that is. Plant time moves a lot more slowly than animal time. So try tuning into the plants around you when the pace of life seems overwhelming. When you walk in the woods, you share the earth and the air with beings whose time is circular rather than linear. The seasons have a pattern, and that pattern is embedded in a cycle of birth and death that reaches forward and backward into time. Seeds grow, the parent eventually dies, but it doesn't matter so much. Decay is just as important as germination. If a tree loses a limb, it's not necessarily a disaster. It doesn't even lose any beauty in the process as it continues to grow and thrive. And your mind may be spinning out, but in fact, your body is supported by the earth, same as the trees, the fungi, the vines, the shrubs, the grasses. You can slow down even more and key into mineral time. Now, even though we know the mountain will eventually change and break down, and that boulder by the trail is already morphing as the lichen and mosses that grow in its cracks begin to split it apart, but you and that boulder and the lichen exist together in this same wonderful moment. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Sometimes you're so short on time and energy, the only time you have to be outdoors is maybe taking the trash out in the evening. You can fill in your own blank here. I used to pause in the driveway and look up. And even if you can't see the stars or the moon, you can feel the space above you. The world's immense, and you are quite small. Your problems are in proportion to your size. Getting outdoors, for me, puts a lot of things into perspective. To quote Rick Blaine in Casablanca, it doesn't take much to see that the problem of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. Now, Orthodox Jews wear a skull cap called a kippah to remind themselves that, as I understand it, under the kippah lies all that they have control over. The rest is God. Now, I'm an atheist, but I can agree that I can only really choose what I am going to do. My actions are my only true possessions. I can't control the rest of the world. And when you feel in your deepest self that you are part of everything and that everything is a part of you, you begin to let go of fear and worry and sorrow, and you're able to take on the challenges of the day without psychological damage. All of my self-care recommendations have one thing in common. They lead to connection. Connecting mind with body. Connecting self with other people. Connecting self to the universe. Those connections are already there, but we're not always in touch with them. So as you can see from the full reproduction of Hokusai's wave, the image includes not just the wave and the people in the boats, but have you noticed what's in the background? It's part of a series of 36 woodcuts entitled 36 Views of Mount Fuji. It's easy to miss the mountain in the distance, but in fact, that mountain is the whole point of the picture. When the wave threatens to swamp your boat, remember the mountain. It's solid, and it's there for you. In fact, you are connected to it already, and it is connected to you, and you too can be solid as the mountain. You already are, even though you may have temporarily forgotten that. So give yourself a chance to remember, stop and rest, connect with a supportive community, and if you can, physically put yourself outdoors. Now, we can only know what we personally know. My view cannot exist apart from the culture and society of which I am a part. I can do my best to see through someone else's eyes, but I can't assume they share the same truths that seem obvious to me. I like to quote Ursula Le Guin, the great science fiction writer and poet. She said, "All knowledge is local. All truth is partial." I'll say that again, because they're words to live by. All knowledge is local. All truth is partial. I hope some of what I have shared with you today helps you bring more joy and peace and ease into your life and helps you be the person you aspire to be.
Rebecca, from your title and sermon description, I knew I was going to be in for a treat and for some good ideas to keep me grounded when world seems to feel crazy. Again, I think about this place as a sanctuary, a place to get centered, grounded in our values, and remind ourselves what is really important to us. So here we are now at the stewardship moment in our service. We ask First Unitarian members to give our 3 T's: time, talent, and treasure to support our church. This is the moment we focus on treasure, the means by which we support our staff, keep the lights on, the heat on, the air conditioning going. During the offertory music, there will be a slide showing how to make that gift, from putting your cash or check in the offering plate when it is being passed here in the sanctuary, or mailed or contributed online for those of you who are at home. Now please join me in dedicating our offering. Can we have the next slide? There we are. First Unitarian Church, dedicating our offering to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action. We dedicate our lives in these, our offerings. Will the ushers come forward, please? Thank you.
In the whirl of days, the swift procession of the passing years, we can lose our way
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Kathy. And thank you for picking that. Oh, you didn't pick that one. Okay. Well, thank you for picking that. All right. If you have lit a chalice at home, I invite you to extinguish it while I read these words by Reverend Heather Ryan Starr, who's the UU minister of Southern Delaware. To soulfully survive the world's mayhem. She says, whatever gatherings or activities we engage in this Sunday afternoon help restore us, help restore our connections to one another, our sense of hope, beauty, and fun in this world, our deep knowing that we have to take care of ourselves and each other with love and joy if we are to soulfully survive the world's mayhem. Thank you.
Go forth in simplicity, find and walk the path that leads to compassion and wisdom, that leads to happiness, peace, and ease. Welcome the stranger and open your heart to a world in need of healing. Be courageous before the forces of hate and hold and embody a vision of the common good that serves the needs of all people. Please rise and sing our closing hymn. It's number 1020, Whoa Ya Ya, by the great Issei Barnwell. Enjoy.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know within. We'll be warned, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will.